I think so, but I know the guys are on it. I don't It used to be more labs. I just.
Yeah.
Hey guys. Okay. Regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for the Town of Green Mountain Falls will come to order at this time. The date is August 5th, 2014. The time is a little later tonight, it's 7:21. Please note that Trustee Butts is not present this evening. However, we do have a quorum. So at this time, will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And I will lead us this evening. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome, you guys. Thank you for coming out tonight. Welcome to those watching via live stream tonight or over here. Good to see you guys. Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for attending the workshop earlier. I was on my way from Denver at 5:35, hitting Monument to pick up our son, who is now home this evening.
Yay!
And we are very so he will be home until Monday, and then he will go back to the hospital. But I appreciate y'all's patience tonight, and thank you for all of those who are praying for our family. Welcome, Mary, our new town clerk is here. Yes, Mary, you must know that this is right now the only area that, so people can't see you, so you have to run in front of it.
Well, then
Yes.
I would suggest the board entertain a motion to reorganize the agenda just minorly.
Okay,
To entertain a resolution appointing Mary as the town clerk, and then adding as 2A, a swearing of the town clerk so that she could actually oversee this meeting as the appointed, newly appointed town clerk. That would be my suggestion, but the board is really up to do whatever they would like.
okay. Board, you okay with that? Okay, are there,
So don't we then have to move 3 to before 2?
You can just do it twice.
yeah. Okay. So are there any more additions or anything to this agenda? So let's do what, move to approve that, what Mr. Cobb said. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Very nice. So,
So board, I actually did not provide this resolution to you earlier for a very particular reason, aside from that I'm usually behind. I wanted to sit down with your new town clerk and go through the process of writing the resolution and get her up to speed on what you've been working on and things like that. So your clerk actually found the local ordinance that provides your ability to appoint a town clerk, while I found the state statute, and she did so very quickly. So I have no doubt that you're in good hands, and I would encourage you to read the resolution that the two of us drafted together, and go from there.
so, let me,
Did I miss getting you a copy?
yes. I'm sharing this.
There's the section.
Okay.
Thanks.
Oh, that's later. So, I'll just read this for our viewers as well and for those in the audience. A resolution appointing Mary Duval as town clerk for the town of Green Mountain Falls, Colorado, Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Town of Green Mountain Falls, pursuant to Colorado statute and the Town of Green Mountain Falls Municipal Code, is vested with the authority of administering the affairs of the Town of Green Mountain Falls. Whereas CRS 31-4-305 authorizes the appointment of a town clerk, whereas Section 2-81 of the Green Mountain Falls Municipal Code provides for the appointment of the town clerk, whereas on July 15, 2014, the Board of Trustees interviewed candidates for the position of town clerk. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Town of Green Mountain Falls, Colorado as follows. The Board of Trustees for the Town of Green Mountain Falls, Colorado hereby appoints Mary Duvall as town clerk. If any article, section, paragraph, sentence, clause, or phrase of this resolution is held to be unconstitutional or invalid for any reason, such decisions shall not affect the validity or constitutionality of the remaining portions of this resolution. The Board of Trustees hereby declares that it would have passed this resolution and each part or parts thereof, irrespective of the fact that any one part or parts be declared unconstitutional or invalid. Existing resolutions or parts of resolutions covering the same matters embraced in this resolution are hereby repealed, and all resolutions or parts of resolutions inconsistent with the provision of this resolution are hereby repealed, introduced, resolved, and passed at a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Green Mountain Falls on this 5th day of August, 2014.
I move approval.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Very well.
And I'll have the board note for the record that although this has not been assigned a specific number for resolutions, that is a number one project that your newly appointed town clerk will be working on. To make sure that that's the last resolution, absent poor policy, that you'll see without a number.
I know.
And that has no effect on the legality of passing the resolution. That's a ministerial act.
And then at this time, we will administer the oath.
So that would be my suggestion.
Yes, and so the oath, is it? Yeah, back here. This is one of my favorite things to do. So let's just walk over here so you will be on camera. So everybody can see you. There's the little X-ray. So when we get her to the wall, it'll be better. So you won't have this little. Okay, so you're gonna raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Mary Duvall, do solemnly swear by the ever-living God, that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America, the laws of the state of Colorado, and the ordinances of the town of Green Mountain Falls. I will faithfully perform the duties of town clerk treasurer, which I'm about to enter. Mr. Cook, can we use your pen right here?
Too late to run.
Mine right there.
She can run, but she
Now sign my name.
Praise the Lord.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Thank you very welcome. Yes, yes.
Thought we already had a treasurer.
We,
Appointed from the board.
Mr. Cobb, can you explain that? Mr. Cobb, there was a question about treasurer, with our new town clerk acting as treasurer, and
Yeah, I would suggest that if, if the board feels like there is a gray issue, on that, tonight you're more than welcome to make a motion to, reaffirm that your town clerk serves as your, town treasurer. Another option is to address it by, bonding information. That looking at that, as, bonding information goes typically toward the town clerk's duties as well as financial side, which is the treasurer side of her office. I have not been able to get in contact with Cersei yet to get a quote for them providing us a bonding company. And currently, well, previously your clerk was bonded through travel insurance. I would assume that the board would want, to the extent possible, two options to see what costs are different between those two. Cersei is currently your insurance carrier, but I don't think you're certainly not required to use them to bond through your town clerk. But I'll be happy to provide quotes at the next meeting and clean up resolution, make it clear that she would be acting as your treasurer if that's the board's pleasure.
That's good. So is there a motion to approve that?
I think we're just giving staff direction.
Okay,
You
yeah,
can give staff direction, you can make a motion to reaffirm, you reaffirm in each meeting that might be a little redundant, but
Mr. Bratton, does that answer your question? Okay,
We suddenly have two treasurers. We just want.
okay, so maybe we do need a motion to affirm for the town clerk as treasurer then? Okay, second, all those in favor vote by saying aye. Aye. Discussion, sorry, there's no discussion. Is there any discussion? No. Okay. Okay, item number, is that still for you guys?
Yeah.
Next item of business, consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be pulled out for further review? Okay, very well, we will approve all of these, the approved board minutes for 7/15/2014, the planning commission minutes for 6/24, and the bills run for 7/15 to 8/1/14. And do we have a total on those bills?
I don't know.
Not right now. Well, yeah, do you guys have a paper on that? Okay, thank you. It's just, okay, so that total is, we don't have a total right now.
As large outstanding for the town hall.
Okay,
So
So-
it'll be really high.
Yeah, to summarize, the bills run are, and I'm eyeballing, it's probably 10 to 15,000 plus 106.8 thousand for the new town hall construction.
so,
There's lots of little smaller bills and then one outlier.
right. Okay. So is there consent to approve that consent agenda then? Okay, move to approve.
Sure.
Trustee Ellis, second. Any further discussion on them? All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, thank you. Okay, our next, is a public hearing. So at this time, we will move into a public hearing for the stormwater IGA. So at the time, we're gonna recess this meeting and move in at 7:36. 7:36. So we're in a public hearing now for the stormwater IGA. And so we'd love to hear from the audience at this time, anyone in the sitting there, out there that has questions about the stormwater IGA. This has been on the agenda for a couple of weeks now. And so we wanted to give you guys an opportunity to address questions that you might have before the board votes on this evening. So Yes,
Information, was there a change in the voting structure?
Yes.
yes,
Thought I read
there
in the paper
was.
that We got a full vote now.
Yes, we do have a full
Instead of
vote,
partial vote.
yes.
Perhaps we could hear an update on
Yes, so we can hear an update
Sure.
from,
Sorry.
and Dave,
The
Mr.
man is
Munger, can you please stand over there so
Sure.
our citizens, our citizens can see you?
You're fine.
Madam Mayor, I brought copies of the new IGA, which is still not probably complete, but it's close, for each of your board members.
Thank you.
Thank you, I'll help you with this.
And if I might have the audience, just, if you wouldn't mind starting those around.
Can do. Coming around.
And actually for you.
And you're gonna read all 21 pages?
I'm going to read all 21 pages, just for you guys.
We do have one that y'all can look at, actually, I'll share
And I
mine,
will summarize that now.
yeah, just in case y'all want it in the audience, do you want, like, to copy? Sure. Okay, can you pass that back to Judy? Can we get this in email?
How often
as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, so I can post it to make sure
Sure.
you guys have it.
Great, I'll do that. I can probably do that on the way out.
Awesome. That'd be good. I think, Michael, can you see if this, okay, I think,
Better?
yeah.
I'll stand over this gentleman here. I'm Dave Munger, I'm one of the co-chairs of the Citizen Stormwater Task Force. It's a pleasure to be here again tonight. The last time I was here, it was raining a lot more, and I think one of you said, enough with the weather, you made your point. Actually, we've done a survey recently where it's very clear, people understand the weather has made a very big point about all this. There are probably, I've got 8 points here that I think are significant to the IGA of what's about to happen. First of all, most importantly for all of the people in the audience, television as well, the fee has been reduced. We were talking last time about a $9.40 fee, I think, per month on average. That's been reduced to $7.70 an average per month fee. Another thing that you all in particular were concerned about was why doesn't Green Mountain Falls have its own representative? Why do we have to share with Palmer Lake? Well, you now have your own representative. No sharing involved. And everything I'm going to say right now is reflected in the IGA. So there will be a citizens review board. We talked last time about a citizen advisory committee. That title has been changed, and I think that makes a lot of difference, but the actual structure of that board has been clarified. So there will be 11 members of that board, and they will be, you will be able to appoint your own representative to that board as well. And that also leaves a technical advisory committee whose structure hasn't been determined. It's anticipated that will be developed during the first year that the board is in existence. But the idea is to bring people with technical expertise to advise the authorities, decision makers. And I think that's a good thing. We're dealing with things that engineers, hydrologists have expertise with. It's not something we can expect elected officials to know just by being elected officials. So it's a good idea to have that sort of technical expertise on board. A fee schedule has been adopted, which goes along with what I just described about the drop in the monthly fee to $7.70. Actually, if you have less than 2,000 square feet of impervious area and your property has 30% impervious area or less, you would pay $3.93 per month or an annual fee of $47.12. The maximum that a commercial, industrial, or government area, the government would pay is limited to no more than $1,666.75 a month. And nonprofits would pay no more than $312.52 a month. And somebody asked me, what about schools? And schools are classified as nonprofits. So the maximum annual fee that a school will pay for impervious surface is $3,750.19. It shouldn't be, and this is deliberately designed this way, it shouldn't be a huge financial burden for anyone. It's hard to say that for anyone, but it should be for school systems in particular. I have that sheet up here, and I'd be glad to share it with people, or let people look at it. Maybe there's a copier that we can make copies. And I apologize, my day has been crazy. You want? Yeah. My day's been crazy, and I just haven't had a chance to do some things I wanted to do. Let's see. Okay, the other things that are involved. Some of you were concerned about this board's ability to exercise eminent domain, to condemn property, take that property on. In the IGA, you'll see the board has specifically rejected its right to do that. It does have a right as a government entity to do that. It has said we will not exercise that right as part of this authority. Let's see, Rusty, your own representative. Oh, the other thing is, this is not part of the IGA yet, but it's likely to be. There's a good deal of discussion going on about the emergency funds, and I believe the consensus is beginning to develop that emergency funds, emergency funding will not count against whatever has to be done in Green Mountain Falls, let's say, on an emergency basis. You've got to put in $5 million worth of stormwater infrastructure to control things as an emergency. I think that's unlikely, but let's say that's the case. It would take you a long time if that were counted against your rolling average of how much you can spend per year. That would take you a long time as a small community to pay that off. That's not going to be counted against your rolling average. So if any emergency will be, thank you very much. Any emergency will be not counted against any party's rolling average. If it's declared an emergency, then that's all it would be. And then the other is that the responsibility for declaring an emergency will probably continue to rest with the supermajority that we described the last time I was here. And I think the reason for that is to make sure that no public works director, let's say Colorado Springs, can say, oh, we've lost a bunch of culverts, that's an emergency, we're going to apply our emergency funds, or all of our emergency funds against that. They want to be sure that everybody can say, yes, that makes sense, it's an emergency, or not. I hope that's clear. I can talk a little more about that for us. And then I also have a list of a tentative list at this point, draft list of the projects that will be listed on the ballot. And there are too many to, about 2 pages like this, so there are too many for me to read, but I'd be glad to let people see it. And I think that leads me to the schedule. So next week, it is anticipated that Colorado Springs and Fountain individually will vote on the IGA, to approve the IGA. A week later, Manitou Springs and Green Mountain Falls, I believe, are scheduled to vote. Actually, you're scheduled to vote on the same day at the same time, so I may not be here for that vote. Someone else who you've never seen before might be here. And then the commissioners will also have, the county commissioners will also have their first vote on approving the IGA. And actually, that will take place before you all, so depending on how it works, you may have the final say or the second to final say on this. On August 24th or 26th, the commissioners will vote to put this on ballot. On September 4th, the ballot language will be submitted to the clerk of the county. And in November, the first Tuesday in November, the vote will be tabulated, or will be finalized anyway, for all of this. I think that's it. I'd be glad to take questions, comments, protests.
Okay. Yes, Dick Brown.
Could you
Can you
tell us,
please, for the record, for Mary, stand and state your name and address, please, so Mary gets to know you as well. Okay.
how are you? That's not
I know.
You go right there.
Okay. A lot of this is similar to the agreement the voters agreed to on the RTA, in that there's a ballot and there's a list of projects. Can you tell us what projects are on the list for Upper Fountain Creek, meaning you pass?
I can give you, I think, a good idea of that. I don't know if it's because my personal knowledge of the geography is a little limited, but I can tell you what I think is, you said Upper Fountain Creek?
You pass.
You pass. There are 8 projects listed for UPass. All are post-fire improvements, post-Waldo Canyon fire improvements. Fern Gulch, Rainbow Falls, Rampart Terrace Road, Sand Gulch, Chipeta Park, Upper Fountain Creek, Wellington Gulch, Cascade, and Fitz Gulch. And then there are, let's see if I can find any others here. And I had a question for you all. You all were going to see if you couldn't get some projects on this list, and I didn't know if you had that chance.
They haven't.
Okay. If you need me to carry some water there, I can do that. In fact, if you give me the list tonight, I'll take it with me.
Michael, can you,
Perhaps the three of us can
Right.
talk about one on the
Great.
next one.
That'd be great. We want to make sure we've got all those projects that are important to you on the ballot, but also keep in mind, unlike the RTA, and this gentleman made a good point, this is very similar to the RTA. Unlike the RTA, however, there will be discussion, probably at least for the first 5 years, about how to identify projects that aren't on this list. So there may be projects actually that get moved because we can all agree that doing a particular project, maybe up the watershed a bit, will eliminate the need to do other projects. But there may also be things that we say, we've just had another fire, we need to add these things to that list. And we want this authority to be flexible enough to adjust to changing realities. So don't feel that I'd love to take those projects down, make sure they're on the list, but it doesn't have to be 20 years out. These are all the projects we think we need. We can't enforce that. It's just too, pardon the expression, fluid a situation.
okay, Mr. Patron, can you stand? Yes, stand and state your name too for
Matt
Mary.
Control, 10840 Myrtle Street. My question, I guess, is if we don't have any specific projects for Green Mountain Falls already selected, why are we rushing into this? The other question I have is, what is the participation of the eastern part of Teller County and Woodland Park in this IGA?
I can answer that one real quickly, and maybe other people here would like to answer the first question, although I'd take a stab at it. There is no participation in this authority by anyone outside of the El Paso County portion of the Fountain Creek watershed. So nobody from Teller County is participating.
At this end of the county, the worst part of the problems begin in eastern Teller County and Woodland Park. If you don't have participation from them, how can this be successful in this part of the county?
I probably shouldn't have said no participation. What I should have said is there will be no vote in Teller County to become a part of this IGA. We just thought that was very difficult to do politically. It's hard enough if we're trying to get 7 parties in El Paso County to do that.
I have a hard time doing that, it's only 2 more.
I understand that, but what we've left open is the possibility that any party who would like to, regardless of where they are, can join this at a later date. And actually, those parties do not have to submit this to a vote. They have the ability to say, we want to be part of this, Teller County, or Woodland Park wants to be part of this. we are going to sign this IGA as a town council or whatever, county commissioners, and we'll become that. We also know that we can do intergovernmental agreements with both of those parties to be sure that we can work with them. And both of those groups have told us already they would be glad to do that. Both of the current political leadership, both groups, current political leadership have said, we'll be glad to participate with you.
Well, you've got your seven, hopefully 7 participants in this IGA. And if they're invited to become part of the IGA, why not get them involved now before there becomes conflict between the western end of El Paso County and the eastern end of Teller County and Woodland Park. Seems to me that the success of this project, for however long it is going to depend on the cooperation that you get from eastern Teller County and Woodland Park.
Well, this authority can act wherever it needs to. It doesn't need to have participation. All it needs is the approval. All it needs is the permission of a body to put a stormwater structure in Teller County. Or
I can't imagine that you get any permission from anybody without some sort of agreement.
Well, yes, there would need to be an IGA, but that doesn't have to involve a vote of the population. That could be something that government, that small government, can do on its own.
Yes, that's great.
Oh, I gotta walk up
I know, just, you have to, everyone needs to see you. State your name, please, and where you live.
Oh, my.
Yes, I know. The X marks the spot. Yes.
My name is Nancy Britton, and we live in this part of the world during the summer. And our houses, and I don't know, maybe yours is too, is in Teller County. How does that, thank you, impact us in this? Are we considered part of Green Mountain Falls? Therefore, we get in this and we are part of it and we pay our fair share? I mean,
I'm wondering too, Matt, as with anything, the town can establish something, could the town establish something that our residents would pay regardless? I don't know. What did we say? We'd rather not pay. I'm just wondering how.
I'm just curious because we are Teller County.
My first thought would be maybe not, but I'm wondering what the town could do.
There are options to make it so that other users within the municipal border, which includes those that are outside of this fee structure, the board could make it so that they were paying a similar fee based on a similar calculation, and receive benefits from it. Because it's my understanding that IGA allows it to be used within the municipality's borders, not necessarily limiting that to the borders that are part of this IGA. So if there was something to the north end of town, or I guess it would be the west end of town, that was in Teller County that was something that would benefit the town, and that's what the project was. It would seem to me that there's nothing in here that would prevent this town from spending its funds in Teller County within the town limits.
But I just wondered if we shouldn't be paying our fair share as well.
Well, that's something that I think the board can decide independently
All right.
of this IGA, is whether to assess a fee to its non-member residents. It is a rather unique situation, but I think there are ways that you could make it work.
There's a deliberate attempt here not to tie the hands of any of the parties' governments. So you all would be entirely free to decide how you want to deal with that situation. The IGA isn't going to try to tell you how to deal with people who are part of the city but in Teller County.
Yes.
Well,
Oh, excuse me.
so who would be collecting?
The fee will be collected by by the clerk, by the county of El Paso on the property tax bill. What will be clear on that property tax bill, which comes out in April, is that it is not a tax, it's a fee. So we've got to find ways to make sure people who don't currently get a property tax bill, like the Air Force Academy, for instance, or Fort Carson, that they are somehow given an assessment. One of the reasons we're using the county system, property tax system, is because that's already set up. It covers 98%, maybe 99%, 99 point something percent of the total total entities that we want to assess that fee to. And it just makes a lot more sense to use that and add something to it than to create a whole new thing which will cause us to spend a lot of money that we don't use.
So that would complicate the town itself collecting any kind of.
Well, if you decide that you want to collect from people who aren't being collected from by the El Paso County system, then yes, you would have to figure out how to do that.
So in Cascade, unincorporated El Paso County.
Yeah.
What would that look like on a tax bill?
It will be a notation on that property tax bill that says, here is your fee for stormwater.
Okay. So if there's a participating entity like Green Mountain Falls, would there not be a county fee, but there would be the town fee?
I think that's entirely possible. Maybe you could actually work out under another IGA or an arrangement with the El Paso County clerk. Or El Paso
Well, my
County
point is that we wouldn't want to be feed or whoever we want to call it underneath the county as well as the town.
I see. Okay.
See what I'm saying?
Okay. I'm sure that can be avoided. I don't know exactly how.
It has to be just simply because of the magnitude. I mean,
Right.
Economic model can't allow for City of Colorado Springs residents to be taxed
No.
municipally and generally.
Exactly. This is just a county fee. It's an authority fee, but it will be implemented by the county.
It wouldn't be any different than the volunteer fire department. We pay a fee for the
That's above my level of knowledge.
So if Green Mountain Falls was not to participate as a municipality, would it be assessed under the county?
No, it would be. And it would be assessed to people who live, if it passes, but Green Mountain Falls has chosen not to sign the IGA, then everyone who doesn't live in Green Mountain Falls but is around you in the unincorporated area would still pay that fee.
Okay, but no one in town would.
No one in the town would, if you've decided that you're not participating. I hope that won't be the case, but yes.
I had another question about the emergency funding where you had mentioned there were some changes made there. Is there a hierarchy of funding as far as who would pay first if, say, we were to have some disaster here in town? What's the hierarchy of emergency funding?
I don't think that's determined at this point. I'm sure that this board will want to deal, well, there are really four very important classes of funding here. One is emergencies. Two is capital improvements. Three is maintenance. We've not done a very good job of capital improvements for a long time, for at least 20 years, compared to the rest of the Front Range, which has already had a stormwater. All of those municipalities up and down the Front Range in Colorado already had a stormwater solution in place for at least 2 decades. The other is operations and maintenance. Again, we are not throughout the watershed funding that very well. I know you all have made some strides in that. Manitou Springs has made some strides in that, but this will greatly augment what everybody else has been trying to do. It'll make a huge difference. The other part of that is planning. And I would assume that in the first couple of years, there'll be a lot of emphasis put on planning. It should never cost more than 10% of the total funds, and the IGA limits all the parties to spending no more than 10% on planning and emergencies together. I guess from the standpoint of what the anticipated percent of funding is, the greatest stress will be placed on those capital improvements. 55% of on average, of the funding will go to that. 35% to operations and maintenance, and 10% to planning and emergencies. Now, if some huge event happens here, and we've got to respond on an emergency basis to that situation, there is flexibility for the authority board to say, we are going to do that. We are going to take that money and address this emergency. But keep in mind that if we have that sort of huge event, we'll also have state and federal funds dedicated.
And that's kind of like who pays first, because you could have parties saying, well, no, you're supposed to pay first.
You could. I suspect that that might be often more likely to happen in the early years. I think once you all have sat down and started to figure out, this is how we're going to deal with this on a watershed-wide basis, we're going to find a lot more cooperation than Lone Ranger is.
And then to tie into that, for, let's say we do have an emergency situation early on in the life of the IGA, without a lot of money built up, a lot of capital built up, if there was a lot of need for emergency repair, would that be bonded?
It certainly could be. There's no rule against this authority being able to bond. And that under certain, actually what we've tried to do is to allow the authority to be able to use money and get money in whatever fashion makes the most economic sense. So if bonding makes more sense to get things done quickly, they can do that. If, on the other hand, the thought is we'd be better off doing this pay-as-you-go, we can do that as well. The authority can do that. Thank you. Sure, thank you for those. Those are great questions.
My questions aren't going to be quite as detailed as his.
Can
I
you
like-
state your name?
Yeah, my name is David Britton, 11496 Belvedere. To reiterate what Mac was talking about, you're supposed to stand.
Okay. And wait.
Get back to what he was talking about. Unless you get Woodland Park on board, it's not gonna do us a whole heck of a lot of good down here, because our problems stem from the development and all the asphalt that they're putting in there. And they keep laying more and more asphalt. They just put new apartments up there, which is even gonna add even more. And the Walmart tried to cap an artesian well underneath there, and that thing's leaking out from below there. So I'm not saying that this isn't something that the Green Mountain Falls shouldn't do, because I can see the benefit of being able to pull money out of El Paso County, which is a lot more money than Green Mountain Falls does. But unless you get them on board, it's not gonna do us a damn bit of good.
Well, I'm not sure I agree completely, because I think it will do you a lot of good to work together, even if you can't get Manitou Springs to get Woodland Park to cooperate. But we know right now the existing political leadership in Woodland Park is interested in cooperating. We also know that the IGA allows Woodland Park or any other community to join in this IGA at any time. All they have to do is say a majority of their council or their commissioners, whatever party it is, can say at any time we'd like to become a member. And all that means is that only thing that has to happen is the membership of the authorities board has to say we approve of that. And certainly they would for those sorts of things.
At least we can get a moratorium on laying more asphalt up there for a while.
And that's the other thing that you can do with this authority, can speak for its parties and say, we are going to go to court to enjoin you to do these things.
Now, what about, there's some houses that are up along Fountain Creek that are up on the mountainside, and I know some people who live up there. They've lost, they've had to spend, I'd say $3,500 to $5,000 plus rebuilding, doing gas lines and doing all that. Can they join this with us?
Those people are in Teller County?
Unfortunately.
Okay.
But so are we,
Yeah.
actually.
That's a very good question.
Because they're in trouble.
I think ideally, we would want to be able to sit down eventually, and talk. And I think those conversations are closer than
Yes.
closer than we think to sit down with Teller County
The
and
one thing
talk.
The one thing I can think of is those folks could all decide they are going to come together as, let's say, a special improvement area. State law allows for that. They could then sign an IGA as a special improvement area. They could sign an intergovernmental agreement with this authority and agree to pay a fee to help with that, and then correspondingly get some relief.
Additionally,
That's a great question.
the distinction that I've heard from you a few times is distinction between joining the IGA in order to present it to the voters for approval versus areas in which the projects can be impacted or take place. And it's very clear that in this IGA that the authority is to develop projects which will impact the people within the authority's boundaries.
Absolutely.
But that does not exclude any projects outside of the authority which will impact those people in the authority. So
Exactly.
if the problem for Green Mountain Falls and the UPass area is in Woodland Park, this authority can expend and contract and form an IGA with Woodland Park to achieve those projects, regardless of whether Woodland Park, Wayne, and Ortella County are involved in this IGA, which forms the authority.
Exactly. And in fact, Woodland Park, any authority, any community that is impacting on water flow, the quality of water, the rate of water, et cetera, has got to live within certain federal and state guidelines. If they are not, then you'll have, as a part of this authority, you'll have the ability, a lot more clout to say, you people have got to do the right thing. Either stop doing what you're doing or start doing something else that will mitigate the problems you're giving to us. And a good example of that is Pueblo, which has been saying to Colorado Springs for 20 years, you guys have got to quit letting your garbage flow down Fountain Creek to us. This is in part a response to that. And we have been pressured for a long time from Pueblo to do something like this.
In the converse, we've had this conversation before. The flip side of what you just outlined is if Green Mountain Falls as a municipality were to choose not to join this regional authority and our problems persisted and development continues up in Woodland Park, we will be a lone municipality trying to discuss the impact of a few hundred residents with a much larger county and municipality without the reinforcement of this larger.
Right. And another advantage of joining now is you know you are going to have a representative, your representative on this board. If you join later, you don't know that you will have that. Great questions.
Yeah, trustee Ellis.
I'd like to add a little reinforcement to
Thank you.
a couple of comments that you have made. And number one is you have described that this IGA will have a technical advisory committee.
Yes.
Number two, you have said that any kind of a project which becomes identified that has to be upstream on Fountain Creek outside of El Paso County is something that can be done under this IGA agreement.
Absolutely.
Okay, let me try to tie this together and maybe allay some fears that have been talked about from the other people, and particularly concerning the political side of this. The advisory committee has, and you have mentioned this, has hired or will hire an engineer to do the studies, the overall reviews, the overall recommendations, and will stand the test of time. I think you had mentioned one time maybe CH2M Hill or some other esteemed firm such as this.
Those will all certainly be good candidates.
And they will not recognize political boundaries in doing their studies. They do not run a study up to El Paso County and stop, because the watershed for Fountain Creek is much larger. And anyone with this experience, like these companies have, will include the entire watershed, irregardless, and excuse me, that's not a good word, regardless of any political boundary. That will not even enter into the equation. And their study will show that Fountain Creek gets in trouble at milepost 37 or where. And then this is the place where the recommendations will focus and where these structures, as required, will be installed.
That's excellent. I appreciate your coming in and explaining on it. That's absolutely right. The engineering company will, the part of the master planning process will be to take a really good look at that sort of thing and say, we want to spend our money most wisely and have the biggest impact on resolving the stormwater problem. We ought to think about doing a stormwater structure of some sort just south or just downstream of Woodland Park. That's the sort of thing that the authority will then act on.
I don't want to get up there, but how far involved is the Army Corps of Engineers? Because they have governance over any body of water, even a puddle.
No,
Sure.
it's navigable, only navigable water.
Well, that's a big puddle.
You wanna try kayaking?
Well, there are actually several governmental entities that will need to be worked with by this authority. And probably with whatever the Army Corps of Engineers' responsibility is, there will need to be an intergovernmental agreement signed with them. There also need to be one signed with each of the Air Force bases, the Air Force Academy, and Fort Carson. There'll need to be similar agreements or arrangements made with the Forest Service, with the Bureau of Lands, that sort of thing, land management. So there's a lot of work that's to be done, but so much of this work is just waiting for a regional authority like this to be established, because that's what's happening all over the country with dealing with stormwater. We're just 2 decades behind everybody else on the Front Range in doing that. There's a lot of experience with how that works.
Well, a couple of questions. Which communities have decided to be involved and which communities have opted out?
Technically speaking, no one has decided to be involved and no one's actually opted out. We do think, however, don't mean to be obtuse, we do think that there's a very good chance we'll have 5 communities that will opt in. We'd be one of those. The others would be, and communities is a large term. So the county, Colorado Springs, Manitou Springs, and Fountain, besides Green Mountain Falls. And the 2 that we are finding a little reluctance from, but that's not a firm refusal yet, are Monument and Palmer Lake. And I know right now that the business community has asked us to come, and some neighborhoods, some large neighborhoods have asked us to come and present what we're doing here because they feel that the pros for this haven't been heard sufficiently. And actually, any of these communities could decide at any time to join if they were to decide before the ballot language is finalized on September 5th. I think that's right, maybe 4th. They could become part of the ballot language if they decide that they want to join later, and they don't need to submit this to their population, their voters for voting. It's not absolutely required. They could sign the IGA before the ballot is finished or after the ballot's done.
Okay, and the other comment I had was that when we sold the RTA, we had had other proposals beforehand that were, frankly, they were employed by the city of Colorado Springs to enlarge their transportation system on somebody else's back, and it failed miserably. The RTA came along, and there was something in it for everybody, and it was pretty specific, not down to the penny, but there were specifics involved, and it was real easy to sell to the guy on the sidewalk or the guy you meet at the post office or the grocery store, because we knew that we were going to get our main road paved, and we knew that we were going to get X amount of dollars in a range every year for our maintenance department. There's nothing in here like that. It's hard to sell something to somebody when they don't know what they're going to get for their money. And so the only thing I see as a plus for your whole program is that you'll allow people to come in after. I think it's pretty hard for communities to get into the RTA now
It's still possible, though.
Possible, but difficult. And so, you know, if it does pass, and I like the concept, but it's very unspecific. And for that reason, I'm probably gonna, if I get a chance to vote against it, I probably will vote against it because it's not specific enough. I don't know what I'm gonna get for my $7.75 or whatever it is a month.
$7.70.
And whatever it is. But the point is that it's a whole lot easier to get somebody to buy onto something when they know what they're gonna get out of it. And there's no indication on this at all.
Well, I disagree, because as I held up before, there's a list of, I think it's 83 projects that will be on the ballot as part of this. And if we're successful, we can take the list of things that aren't on here that you all want to see, and put that on the ballot, we'll do that.
We will have, go on, excuse me.
No, that's okay. The other thing I would say is the thing that makes this different than the RTA in terms of ease of joining is that the RTA is a tax. So by state law, we must submit that any entity, any party that wants to become a part of the RTA has to submit that first to its citizens. And RAMA has done that, and I think Callahan hasn't been able to yet. Because they keep failing by a few votes when they submit this.
But again, if you know what you're gonna get for your dollar,
Well,
it's not hard to say that, but you know, you said nothing about what's gonna happen in Green Mountain Falls.
well,
We don't know, I know my $7.70 a month isn't much, but I like to know what I'm getting for it. We're
And
gonna try to
Mr.
get
Chairman,
that.
we will have representation on this committee to make sure that Green Mountain Falls is heard and represented. And for me, $7 a month to make sure that we're represented is huge.
Well, yeah, I
I
guess I
don't want
disagree
someone
with
else
that.
making
but, you know,
decisions for us.
I like to know going in that my money's gonna get spent on something that I'm gonna be a benefit of.
that is actually in the IGA. It says that over a 5-year rolling average, whatever is raised from Green Mountain Falls will come back to Green Mountain Falls proportionally.
That's right.
So,
And another point that I've made that reinforces it is our involvement in regional matters, particularly with transportation and their agency on aging issues. They transcend our municipal boundaries. And if we have a problem where New Pass is closed due to flooding, whether that's at Rainbow Falls or if it's in Cascade, that's a problem for just about every resident of Green Mountain Falls. Sure. And that's outside of our municipal boundaries. So if whatever we can do to help support that and help the infrastructure that we utilize all the time, it's imperative for us to look at and look beyond our municipal boundaries to the region.
I do think that's really well said, because everybody who's participating in this IGA is going to benefit from whatever is done. Flooding affects us all, almost no matter where it is. And if it happens downstream from you, you're probably going to have to drive through that or wait hours for it to be cleared up, maybe days for it to be cleared up. It should have a dramatic impact on you over time.
Yeah, are there any other citizens in the audience tonight that would like to talk or say something? So in the interest of time and to make sure we can get going and not have forever, we're gonna close this public hearing. And Mr. Munger, we're not voting tonight, that's gonna be on the agenda next week, or?
I would suggest you do that just to give one more opportunity for citizens to come in and make comments, as well as make sure that we properly notice another public hearing for it, and give your new clerk a little bit of exercise in doing so.
So, okay, so I'd like to close, if there are no other further comments, I'd like to close this public hearing at 8:20 and then back into our regular meeting. And
Thank you very much.
thank
for your
you
time.
so much. And so we will have a vote this meeting,
Wonderful.
which would be on August 19th.
August 19th.
Green Mountain Falls will make a decision. So,
And in the meantime, you have the IGA in front of you. If you have other comments to make, I can wait around for a while if we're going to have a conversation about those projects. And we can see what we can do about that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you or your attorney or your clerk have about the situation. And thank you very much to all of you for your questions and your input.
yeah.
Thank you, Lori. I might just add, there is a lot of information online for those who are interested at pikespeakstormwater.org. Bill and I
Thank you.
perused and perused.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Lots of good.
so Pikes, and again, that's pikespeakstormwater.org. Okay,
For those who
well,
still have
thank you for coming up,
My pleasure.
appreciate it.
I enjoy my trips up here. Thank you. And always nice to talk with you all.
Unless it's raining, and you want to get home.
I'll wait a little while. Thank you.
And Ward, just for the record, we did, in a public record, we did get a letter from our commissioner, Commissioner Clark, who does represent this district up here. Did you guys see that today
Yes.
as well? And so, I would like to publicly read this letter that came from her. She is not here tonight, but just for the public record, make note of this. This is addressed to the town trustees, Mayor Worthy. It's my understanding that you will be considering a proposal at your Tuesday meeting to join the Regional Partnership on Stormwater in a possible El Paso County ballot initiative. As the commissioner who represents Green Mountain Falls, I would like to encourage the town of Green Mountain Falls to join with El Paso County, the city of Colorado Springs, the city of Manitou, and the city of Mountain in approving the IGA, which will set up this collaborative board to be considered by the voters. As we have witnessed, stormwater can hit at any time and any day. The cost to our communities, both post-Waldo Canyon fire flooding and random flash floods, can cause significant damage, not only to infrastructure, but to our economy as well. The proposed PPRDA is similar to the cooperative Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority, which has demonstrated the benefits of working together to solve issues from a regional perspective. And knowing that everything is relative, Green Mountain Falls' limited budget is challenged with infrastructure and ongoing maintenance in this regard. Please feel free to contact me on my cell if I can answer any questions. I regret that my national county travel, she cannot be here this evening, so she wanted this to come public to let you know, Okay? So that's the letter from Sally. And I just wanted to make that public. Okay? Okay. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Munn.
Thank you for having me here.
And to give the letter to her. Yes, we'll have to. What is that noise?
That's me, sorry.
I'm sorry. I was like, Mr. Britton.
I had pizza.
Okay. I was like, it's like, oh, yeah, what is it doing? What is that noise? Okay, so, thank y'all for everything, and thank you for, and again, I appreciate the conversations we're having, and the fact that we're not rushing through this. And we're having time to just talk through that, so I do appreciate those conversations very much. Okay, so at this time is public input for items that aren't listed on the agenda. Public comment is welcome, and please limit your conversations to 3 minutes. And if questions or requests are presented, they will be referred to a designated trustee for further investigation. So at this time, is there public comment? Yes, please stand.
Mac Patrol, still at 108 River Street.
Mr. Detroit. Yeah, I was like,
I would like to request a copy of the check register and the supporting documents and a copy of the bills run from January 1 till today. They asked several times for the bills run and never have been able to secure a copy, so I'd like to have them all now. The other thing is that I read the minutes, and I know that these were done in a rush. I would request that they be done double spaced, real hard to read. So if you don't mind, if you're gonna you use more than one or two pieces of paper, please cover space, so I can read it.
Yeah, I think, the board, I think there's some decisions that you're gonna need to make in order to respond to the citizens' request. So perhaps you want to delay assigning a trustee until the end of the meeting and then correspond with him directly afterwards. You have, under new business, a board policy, which the bills run would fall under. So that may streamline response to Mr. Patron. Additionally, you have a new town clerk who is fighting the battle between trying to figure out what the old system was and trying to appease the board's wishes going forward. So, and I would anticipate the form and structure of minutes would be one of those items that the board or the department head would need to touch base with the new clerk.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes. I think that we probably want to delay and get some input on minutes and format and such, and come up with some consistency.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Bratton?
I'm Dick Bratton, 11190 Honda Avenue. Delighted to be a 31-year resident of this magnificent town. And this weekend, we had a very significant demonstration of the citizens coming together for our 76th annual Bronx Day, which was, by all measures, very successful. Seated in the front row is Vicki McKnight, who was chairman this year and chairman last year. Both years, the event grew under her leadership, and we had some new twists this year. Bronx Day planning is a continuous process. Before, or just a few days after the event is held, we meet to critique the event and start planning the next year's event. Then during the year, the planning committee, or the Bronx Day committee, about 10 people, meets for 7 months, at least once a month, to plan the event. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. I'd like to let you know that this is a citizen-driven event, and the citizens of this town, and Chipeta Park, and Ute Pass, all come together to make it a success. On Saturday, we had 52 volunteers that helped run the event. Financially, it was a success. The last 6 years, we've been very careful with our budgeting and our spending to make sure we stay within the budget. And every year we had a little surplus, a little margin that we put into a nest egg. So if, horror of all horrors, it rains during Bronx Day, we've got enough money to carry us through the next year. So the event will have some longevity for another 76 years. But I'd like to just take a minute to give a special thanks, especially to Mike Cullinane, the Public Works. He went the extra mile to help us his first Bronx Day, and he learned quickly. Also, from the Marshals Department, we had Susan Barnes, who gave us tremendous support with help from El Paso County and other law enforcement agencies. Mayor Worthy helped us through the day in ticket sales and keeping all the VIPs entertained. Trustee David Cook, what can I do? He's a real hero. At the end of Bronx Day, people are going home, getting a cold beer, and he's out there hauling trash cans to the pickup truck. Don Ellis was our parade chairman. Barb Gardner, another trustee. worked on the parade, he recruited, horse people and got the, Teller County, riding club to come down with over 12 horses. The most horses we've had in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
Mike Butcher's not here. You would have seen him getting smoke in his eyes in the fire department, cooking sausages and other things, and pancakes. So, in fact, this is the most participation we've had from the town elected government in any Bronx Day since I've been here.
Wow.
So,
Great.
I think this is a significant coming together of the citizens and town government. Very significant. We had 22 citizens donate to Bronx Day. We had corporate sponsors, Cripple Creek and Victor Mine, $500. Outlook Lives, $500. So we raised quite a bit of money this year to get us through. Citizens, Vicki McMack, I mentioned. Margaret Peterson was the chairman of our vendor booth program. Did a great job. Mike Lohman was our webmeister and chaired the remote controlled boat races on the lake. Pamela Giroux, I've got to give a special thanks to Pamela. She was here.
They left.
She helped us set a record in donations. She went personally out and got her friends, and each summer residents to contribute to Bronx Day. So, and there are many more. I could go on, but I know I got 3 minutes. Get out of here. But thank you everybody for supporting Bronx Day. It'll be bigger and better next year.
Thank you, and thank you.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay, Vicki McKnight, Joanne. I just want to tell you guys, I went around to all the vendors and just chatted with people throughout the day. And one of the things that the vendors said over and over and over again was just how pleasant, how kind, and how nice the people were that were at the event. The second thing they said was, oh my gosh, this place is beautiful. So we live in a beautiful place and we have beautiful people, and we really do appreciate everything that you guys did to help, but we also appreciate our citizens for coming out, so thank you so much.
Okay. Yes.
Standing behind the camera, I want to express my gratitude to the town attorney.
Mr. Lohman, can you say
My
who you are?
Oh, I didn't mention,
That
Matt was there too.
Matt was
That's right.
there,
Sorry.
came to the meetings,
You're on my
didn't
list.
scare anybody.
Yes.
And I appreciate that he did show up and was there. It's a great impression upon me, at least, and I think about the other people too.
We haven't gotten it.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
I've gotten to know you.
Well, I was gonna say part of that for my attorney's report, but I'll say now that, although my vote, usually counts a little bit, both my 2-year-old and 6-year-old said, before we had left the event, that they wanted to A, stay, and B, come back next year. And so we actually spent the whole weekend here and had an absolute blast, so we will be back.
Let's just move up.
We're putting you down. We're putting you down, Mr. Cobb.
Yep.
Yes.
And I'm volunteering now for next year.
Okay. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And Vicki and the Bronx Day Committee, thank you guys for all you do. You just so Okay, is there any other public comment? Okay, let's move on. Old business. The first item under that is review of the asset policy. Mr. Cobb, I'm going to turn that over to you.
I'm gonna punt back to Mr. Stevens.
Okay,
but,
Trustee Stevens.
I guess the only comment I had is it sounds like we should address some of the issues that might arise when there are town assets that the department heads and the town staff, as you're rebuilding, come across that could be used and disposed of in order to create more funds. rather than just having the assets sit and collect dust or snow as we approach winter. Because currently, on page 2, under asset transfer and disposition, capital assets should not be transferred, gifted, traded, turned in for auction, or disposed of without prior approval of the town board of trustees. I spent quite a bit of time today driving around town, and I finally made it over to the public works yard, which I was informed has drastically been cleaned up thanks to Michael. And in doing so, he's come across things that could really serve as better use as scrap, or frankly funds for turning in scrap. But this provision prevented him from doing that without coming before the board. So it sounds like this could be revisited. I think it's something that, I know Trustee Stevens drafted this, and I'm sure he can comment on what maybe changes he'd suggest, or the board can discuss that together too.
Okay, Trustee Stevens?
This was drafted more than 2.5 years ago. And I think there's certainly always opportunity for improvements, but I think the short fix, rather than getting drafting policy review and changing that, is simply providing the approval by this board for the things that it's comfortable that Michael suggested to liquidate, and I'm fully comfortable with doing that. I had a question on 1 or 2 of them, but I guess maybe we should segregate this conversation from the review of the asset policy, to Michael's proposal about liquidating assets, which I'm behind. I just have a few things I'm less behind than others, but I think one of the reasons to put this on the agenda is to make us as a board and us as staff as well, make sure that we're cognizant that we have something in place that prevents simply liquidating funds not going anywhere. It's very lengthy, and there's a lot of, if I recall correctly, it was adopted from some other municipal policies and with much more cumbersome accounting policies, but it was a good place to start. It talks about definition of what things are, where the various categories are, and then periodic inventories, and then making the board aware of what the town's assets are. And obviously, we're not going to endeavor to get that done tonight, but over time, as the dust settles and we get employees situated, I think it would be prudent for us to walk through and ascertain what the assets are and what we choose to do with. But ahead of all that, we have some more immediate assets that we think we're ready to take action on. I think that should probably be a separate conversation.
Okay, so do we want to go into that second part of that then, or can we even do that?
There doesn't sound like you have a whole lot of action on the review of the asset policy. If there's things that need to be moved on, the board is aware of.
Right.
It's your pleasure to address those as they come up.
Okay. So do we want to address those now, Trustee Cook?
I would,
Okay. So
I would make a motion that we approve the list that Michael Cronin has put together as far as the disposal of assets from public works.
okay, do you have a copy of that? Does anyone have a copy of that we could review and pass out? Have that to our citizens to make sure that they, because I don't have that, or that packet this week is a little slimmer.
I have a long list in the G. We would identify certain things because there's certain items right now that are not up.
Okay, would you read that, sir?
The main thing was I would think it would even include the scrap metal.
Yeah, it sounds.
We have accumulated tonnage of scrap metal, including spare parts, old gas tanks, old snowplow blades, all of metal value. One of the sanders on one of the trucks that we use for snow plowing is beyond repair. So that would be one of the items also.
To the-
Other than that, it's just various metal scrap.
To the extent that you're worried about, whether this allows them, department heads or employees to dispose of assets of a certain dollar amount, that doesn't prevent the board from specifically authorizing that, even if it's less. So
Right.
scrap metal, anything that the board wants to authorize is just,
Okay, I would authorize that, for value. Of larger assets, that would be on the list. We have an old 1970 F-60 boom truck that is not running, that is taking up space.
Yeah.
And we also have where's the water truck? We have a 1981 F-70 diesel water truck that's not usable for our application. It is running, but it is not basically a design of a water truck. It has been put together. And so we would be interested in seeing if we could dispose of that through sale. So those would be the two major sale items at this time.
so now that you've mentioned it, made the record reflect the items that you public works employees have identified, it sounds to me like the board could certainly entertain a motion to authorize the town employee to either dispose of the assets as he sees fit or in conjunction with the department head. Or if you wanted to set more specific limits on it, you could do that too. That's not to say that I don't think your public works director is competent to get rid of it, but those are certainly all of your options.
So a motion to, what do you guys think? Any comments?
I would move approval of the disposition of the boom truck and the water truck and the scrap metal that's been identified, and to achieve no penny less than someone's willing to pay.
I would second that.
As much as we possibly can get.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any
Just-
further
Just
discussion?
to be clear, I would suggest that you specifically say who you were authorizing to get rid of it and make the determination at what price to get rid of it.
Before you move on that, there's also that old dozer that's out there.
Oh,
It's
please.
an antique that's been
Yes,
sitting there.
I'm sorry, that was not on this list.
I forgot to put that on
Yeah.
there. That'll be another item.
Yes.
The
It's a
antique.
friendly amendment. Does everyone know what we're
We
referring
have to
to?
take our picture before it goes away. We have to take our picture. So,
I would support that, just to ensure that we have a board member, over making sure that we're not selling it for peanuts.
right, so
Aside from
to,
that, I have a lot of confidence in this.
right,
But just to provide additional oversight, like that.
so,
So are you saying that you would like Mr. Colonnay to sell it with the approval of his department head?
I'm just saying that to have two eyes on that.
So-
I would authorize him to pursue and do all of that legwork and then before the final sale comes, just to make sure,
Just
that-
have,
just to make Mr. Cook aware that it's happening.
okay. So it sounds like there's a motion pending for the sale of the 3 assets in addition, with the addition of the bulldozer. So scrap metal, the water truck, the boom truck, and the bulldozer with the coordination of the department head, trustee Cook, and public works director,
Right.
Michael Coleman.
okay, I second that. Well, there's already been second, there's further discussion.
So that you're clear, who's made such a motion, who's seconded?
I have down that trustee Stevens motioned it and trustee Cook seconded it.
Okay,
Just a point of discussion, in that scrap metal, are you thinking the siding to the grader as well? Or-
No. No, that's gonna be another discussion about it.
so this time, all those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, very well,
Thank you.
awesome, thank you. Okay. next order of business is the new business. And under new business, number A, or letter A, is appointment of green box liaison. And this discussion came up with just having a relationship with Greenbox and having someone on the board who is the contact person for Greenbox, and we thought that that could be a really good thing, just sort of like we have a trails person now. So anyway, Mr. Trustee Cook came to me and mentioned that he would love that opportunity to be, I'm sorry, Ellis. It's like, okay, Trustee Ellis. There you go. Came to me and said he would love that opportunity to sit as the liaison to Greenbox and to work with them and then report back to the board to make sure that we're all on the same page. And so with that, I would like to move to approve an appointment of Greenbox liaison, Ellis. How do you guys think about that? Good? Okay, is there a second? Any discussion on that? Trustee Ellis, would you like to say something about that?
No.
No? All those in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Good. Okay, the second item, B, is identification cards for board members and staff. And I'd like to, after the Waldo Canyon fire, we realized the need to have some identification for the board members during an emergency situation, something with a name badge or something that shows that we are with the town. I think emergency, time and time again, you know, with the arson fire at our town hall, it would have been nice to have some identification to let them know that, you know, hey, we're a board member, we're not just standing here, you know. And so I'd like to turn that over to Chief Bradley to talk.
Real brief on that, you have examples in front of you. The back of the IDs, it's just something I had on my computer, I just worked it up. You guys can decide what you want, on the front or the back. The color-coded strips on the front, town logo, that's pretty, that can kind of be a standard thing, it matches our department IDs. So it's whatever you think, whatever you design. I talked to Ron, who manages, Martin, who does all of our IDs and letterhead. He said that he will do the IDs for just under $5 a piece. I strongly recommend that we do what we do, and that is when you have IDs, you get two, and one of them stays on file here at Town Hall. Wallets get lost, purses get lost, things like that happens. That's a system that I have. I have an ID in the personnel file, and they have one with them. My employees, so that's pretty much it in a nutshell. If we have a universal ID that identifies the department or who you are, what your function is here, it's going to be a little more significant. Again, like if there's an event and you're trying to get somewhere or be contacted, it won't grant you access to a hard closure, period. We shut down the pass and we were evacuated. But it's a bit more than just a driver's license. So it's up to you if you like that format. You guys can get with it. It's a process for you. You take a picture, you get your signature on a blank piece of paper, and I scan and send the signatures down, and you don't have to go down there and go through the rigmarole that we do, which is our fingerprint and all these other things that we have to do to our IDs. So that's it.
One of the good things about, you know, looking at this evening is that Chief Bradley does have a few new reserve people, correct, that you are going to do this for right now, and so this would be is that a good word? Yes, and a good opportunity to go ahead and get us all on the same page with that tonight or whatever. And I also think our staff, Michael and Mary, I think it's important also to have a badge as well, in case, you know, yes.
Here's just another part of this that, you know, maybe doesn't matter, but if you're at trainings, conferences, you know, you carry these IDs in a format where you can hang It's just, it's different than high on ball, it's different you get when you go places. It shows who you are, who you are. So, we don't use them in that fashion very often, but occasionally we will. Multi-agency training, we'll have them hanging so they know who we are.
And one good point to make, there would be an expiration date on that,
If that's what you
depending
want.
on when your term is, and that it would expire when your term is, board members. So,
I would, I was gonna bring up expiration date, and as burdensome as it is, I think there should be expiration dates for staff as well, so that is reviewed and that they're not, forever. I don't know what the right interval is, whether it's
You can also,
more than 2 years.
you can also collect them on the closure of office.
That's what I think.
Now, would that require a policy or something like that within the market?
I don't think it would. You can certainly put one in behalf.
I mean, just to codify it in place.
I don't think I would suggest doing an ordinance to amend your town code, but
Well,
yeah, if you wanted to put a policy on the books, and I'm sure it would, that might not be necessary, but it could be something you add to your personnel policies too. Just as a section in there that, the town will provide IDs upon hiring or appointment or election, and those IDs can be valid through the term of your employment or office and collected upon termination.
I could see some benefit to these as well if we switch to a purchase card type system. We have official town ID go along with purchase card, and then also if we do in the future get badge access to the new facility, that may be something we might future boards may want.
And then,
Oh, my question is, in the new town hall, is there any place that is gonna be computerized that you need a swipe to go anywhere?
Very possible.
yeah, and that's what I'm about to bring up, when these IDs are made on, they're on the same page.
Okay.
When these IDs are made, they're in a PDF form, so we go with a company that we have managed that and access cards are issued. They can scan those onto the hard plastic card. It's not an impossible thing at all. It's what's already built there. If you notice on the back, the full sheets, what I've put in there, the same thing that says on our IDs, is those identification cards are property of the town of Blue Mountain Falls. So absolutely, they get turned in at the end of term or employment or whatever. If that's what you want, that's how I run on mine. If somebody needs the agency, I don't want them running around with police IDs, attaching them to this, and that's pretty standard. So,
Very good. Just
yes.
also on the back, in addition to the property would it be good to have a town stamp and sign this on the back?
whatever you like. I've got the address there and phone number, so if it's lost, people can mail them back in. If they choose to, they know where to send them. I get enough calls for lost wallets regularly, so it happens.
And I also might just throw on there the website.
Okay.
I don't know why, but
We can design this however you guys want, and that's something you guys should probably look at and decide what you like. I send it up to him, he designs it, he can shoot us a proof, and you guys can go from there, it's very flexible.
I move the town move forward with creating and manufacturing 2 IDs for every elected official and town employee.
One, two, what Chief had said, to have one at town hall, to keep one.
Very good file.
Yeah, to keep it at, to keep it on file. Okay, is there any other discussion on that? My only thing is, could we go ahead, Trustee Stevens, are you okay with signing this tonight, and can we take pictures or not? How
We
soon?
can, with on these microbucks, and then
Would it be easier?
when displays are added, we can add them, but that's maybe a week process.
Okay.
1 week process, so I have a camera, if you just want to take pictures after this, that's fine with me, we can get your signatures and we can get that started, but as far as the final product, what you want the idea to look like and what you want it to say on the back.
Right.
You know, with us, we have blood type, we have height, weight, eye cover, that may not be what you want.
I like this. Do you guys like what we see right here? Just that?
More of an identification that I don't think it needs.
Yeah, we don't need, I'm not putting my height or weight.
That's fine.
I'm not doing all of that, just, that is
That's why I
fine.
said,
Yes, that is fine, just,
And I would think that we could, once we get a format laid out, we could probably just submit a picture and I don't think it needs.
again, I give you that link, and you can, what I think is a good idea, if we take pictures, is that we have the same background on all of them. So I have multiple colors with multiple patterns. With my folks, I line them up between the flags, and I shoot that white ball, so it's consistent.
So we would have to do that individually, otherwise we would have to publish meeting. So,
Where do they feel on the glam shot?
I mean, a picture of Pikes Peak to put behind it, I don't care. As
Well,
long as
he's-
it's consistent.
yeah, trustee Ellis suggested the gazebo, but
Sure.
you probably need to make them just quick, and if you have a time limit for you, we need to move.
Well, it
This
doesn't,
one.
they don't have to.
Yeah.
I'm okay, I'm just, now's the time I'm dealing with them again for new IDs, so that's why it's here.
Okay. Got a plan? Perfect, thank you. Okay, and item number C is resolution adopting Colorado Open Records Act policy.
I think there's a pending motion to second.
Oh, sorry. No, I thought trustee Cook.
Yeah, you
Sorry.
haven't hold the vote yet.
Oh, sorry. Okay, all those in favor of moving on with this identification for staff and elected officials of the town of Green Mountain Falls?
Aye.
Aye, vote by saying aye. No nays? No, okay, thank you. Item C, resolution adopting Colorado Open Records Act policy for, and trustee, Mr. Croft, again, this came up with you.
Yeah, so the legislature passed some new legislation that said if you want to charge for lengthy court requests, which I understand is not necessarily something that happens here, but it could happen. So in the event that the town wants to charge for staff time and for copies, you actually have to adopt a policy, post your policy. And I would suggest posting it here at Town Hall as well as on your website. That you need to do that in order to charge these fees. You have to give the first hour free. After that, this sets it up at $30 per hour and a fee not to exceed 25 cents per standard page of copy of the public record, or not to exceed the actual cost of providing a copy. The fear with court requests are that they come one after the other, after the other, after the other, with very in-depth requests that can really suck up town clerk time. I'm sure other municipal clerks will agree. My hope is that this will free up all of the time possible that your new clerk has to get up to date with your current policies and current procedures and get in the swing of things rather than dealing with that, as well as making it so that if the town gets a rather burdensome request, that the town doesn't eat town staff time, and that you can actually recover some of your costs. It does, unfortunately, for your newly appointed town clerk, provide the opportunity for a new project for your town clerk. That I kind of let her know about briefly. It adopts Exhibit A as actually your town records, public records policy. So if you turn to the third page there, and actually not the third page, let's see, 4, 5, 4. Under section 6, inspection, subsection B, the third line down, it actually makes reference to a town's request for public records form. It would be my suggestion that if your town clerk is going to be the one receiving these, so again, we're on inspection, but the top, it says inspection in section 6, paragraph B. The reference is a request for public records form. The town currently has a open records request form, but my suggestion is that you allow your clerk to amend that to work with how she would like to see the information requested and provide that at the next meeting for your approval. I think that's something that, again, it's kind of like the personnel policy, that form will change. And as that form changes, you don't need to revisit these resolutions, so. Sorry, but that sounds like you have a new project.
I'm delighted.
Mr. Lohman, you had a question?
I request on several places in some time that federal standard set for which was adopted by Colorado, that request form is very, very, very specific, so that nobody can get around, providing certain type of documents. And Colorado has been successfully sued by the ACLU to force to use that form. I'll provide you that information if you'd like. But,
Yeah, it's my understanding the new legislation actually contemplates a form, and that's been used by some municipalities. The litigation recently has actually been over what's been considered a protected record, and that's actually listed on the previous page under section 3. And it just reminds people that, by law, you're not allowed to ask for personal records, ongoing investigations, law enforcement authorities, victims, witness information, social security numbers, juvenile criminal records, work product, deliberative process records, attorney-client privilege records, individual medical, mental health, sociological and scholastic achievement data, letters of reference, trade secrets, confidential, commercial or financial data, personal information, past or present users of public utilities, facilities for recreational and cultural services, records of sexual harassment complaints and investigations, library records and contributions, address and telephone numbers of public school students. The issue with a lot of that litigation had to do with whether the form made it clear that you couldn't ask for those. And what some municipalities were doing is they were going and polling all those, they were charging these people fees and essentially providing them copies that they had redacted all that information without providing them a front half information that said, don't bother asking for these because, well, if we give you something, it's going to be redacted. So we can provide, forms that have been discussed here and redact certain information. Social security numbers is usually a good example. So the form that they forward actually contemplates, specifically laying this out. That's why this policy is drafted like this. This policy was circulated numerous times on CML's website, or attorney listserv for a while to get comments from other municipalities. Each of our clients has adopted a very similar policy. If that's something that the board has heartburn and they want me to look at the form prior to adopting the form, that's fine too. So I can actually provide her examples of other forms, but I figured it'd be something fun to let her tailor it to how she'd like the information presented to her.
Okay, board, do you have any questions for Matt? Is there a time frame that would need this?
It's a resolution, so it's one of those where if you adopt it today and don't like it, we can change it later. It's something that that, I believe it was, either Senate, I think it was Senate, might be a House Bill, 1431, that required you to do this if you do want to charge fees. So it's something that I would suggest at least having on the books, so you can charge a fee if you come back and revisit sections of that, you can do that as you need to.
Okay. So do you guys have a problem with, you want to adopt this tonight, or?
I would move to approve adopting open records policy for court requests, town of Green Mountain Falls. And as far as the form, I think that staff could probably come to a pretty good format. I don't think there's anything wild that's gonna be in there. Basically be formatting the content, it's probably pretty standardized. So, then I would
Just maybe
just
put
have
that
the
her
staff go ahead and develop that. I'm sure Mr. Crowell
would work with
wouldn't allow something crazy. So I think we could trust him in this.
If you'd like, I'm sure town staff would be happy to report back to you after the form's been created to approve it.
Okay, so we have a motion,
I'll second.
second. Okay, discussion? Okay, all those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, very nice. Thank you. Okay, next item is review of event permit. Item D. And again, Mr. Cobb.
So I asked probably the most seasoned veteran town trustee slash former mayor slash current mayor pro tem, what his thoughts were on the event permit, and neither one of us can find a specific provision in your town code that provides for your event permits. There are other issues that I've noticed, particularly with the use of town property by one entity that had a special event permit, and the next special event permit holder coming in and using it and having some complaints about the condition of the property left by the previous vendor or permit holder. Other things such as, when you grant someone an event permit, not having a real specific area defined of what they can be using of the town's property. And it's my understanding it's just kind of you can go use that area kind of over there. So it would be my suggestion that we look at the form that they fill out and perhaps update your code to provide for things such as, the town's really not warranting the condition of the property that you're using. And in addition to that, putting the onus on the user to restore the property to its pre-use condition. That includes trash, that includes driving, vehicles in and out, anchoring things, swings. It's mostly alleviating more work for Michael to go back and make it look pretty for the next person to use. Or to the extent that he needs to do that and sending them a bill for such use. Other things in line with that are fees that have been at least drafted by your marshal department to pass on for the marshal services during these events. So his time, his officer's time, the use of their cars, the use of their traffic directions, things like that, that you may want to get on the books so that it's real clear when people come in that your new town clerk can say, here's the event permit application. Here's, you need to be very specific about what property you want to use, keeping in mind that the board has recently granted the use of your parking lot on Lake Street during a lot of the weekends to Blue Moose, and making it clear that what areas these events can be held in. An additional issue is one of the noise ordinance, and currently your code is gray as to whether if you grant someone an event permit that they're under duty to comply with the noise ordinance as written even now. So, I'd like to address this sooner rather than later. But again, it's something that I would suggest now is the time to look at that, so that as your events wind down this year, it's real clear way early as these events come in throughout next year or next summer, that the system is up and running before we get applications.
Based on that comment, I suggest that we direct the town clerk to draft a form, which then will probably trigger questions in our minds, and then later adopt a draft an ordinance to modify our code to follow, and take into consideration other municipal special event forms and a lot of those considerations that were brought up. So I think for me, reviewing the form and sort of asking questions probably help trigger some areas that we may or may not have covered. Those are all great questions that have been not very well specified in the past.
So would this be on the agenda then for next time too, Stevens?
Right.
I mean, do you?
And your availability date.
I mean, I don't know.
I think when they're done,
Just-
they could add it to the agenda. at
Okay,
that
so
time.
just-
I wouldn't-
When this gets, when you complete that, then.
Or maybe give a draft as even a progress report for our partial review at the next meeting. Just keep the conversation going. I think it's wise to bring it up now and extend it over a few meetings, and then we can hopefully adopt the form or say, yeah, that looks like we covered it all, and now let's provide some code behind it and see what we're missing.
Okay, so that could be on the whole business next time, okay?
One other comment is the Economic Sustainability Committee spent a long time developing our special event fees, and that probably should be considered to carry forward until we have compelling reasons to adjust that. And I'm making that comment because of the many meetings of discussion of what the fee should be, and waiving fees and not waiving fees. So my inclination is let's stick with that fee structure until we have compelling reason to do otherwise.
So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that you know where that fee structure is, and you can provide that to your town clerk to help her.
I will work with her to find it.
So this veteran trustee here.
Trustee can work. Okay, so that was a motion, trustee Stevens?
Just direction.
Direction, so we don't need a motion, that's just direction. Perfect. Okay, thank you. Okay, approved town clerk, next item, approved town clerk to be authorized signer. Board, we've got information here. Somewhere. Yeah, it's a little. It's right there, yes. And so the minutes need to reflect a new authorized signature for the following organizations: Park State Bank and Trust, Mary Duvall, Lori Worthy, Tyler Stevens, Colorado Trust, Mary Duvall, Pikes Peak Community Foundation, and the State of Colorado Department of Revenue, State Sales Tax Distribution, Mary Duvall. Is that okay with everyone? Okay.
Yeah, Mayor, I would do entertain a motion to appoint or to approve that the town clerk be added as an authorized user, so that if there's any question later, one of the banks or the state needs something, we can just provide the minutes that say.
That she's,
That would be my suggestion.
okay. Someone move to approve, appoint her?
Second?
Okay, discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very nice. Okay, and the final new business is the liquor license renewal for the pantry restaurant. So we have this, Chief Bradley, has there been any?
I had no notification to review this
Notification.
renewal. I got anything come from me. I will tell you that I haven't received personally any complaints. I have no knowledge of any alleged liquor violations. So my recommendation is to move forward on that. I will
board, as you know, with liquor licenses, the choices you're actually faced with are to either approve, or if you're considering denying, that you set the matter for a hearing. Based on the information provided under penalty of perjury by the applicant, I'll help remind the board that it is owned for a period of more than 1 year, that there have been no changes in the financial interest, that the applicant has not been convicted of a crime since the date of filing, which is supported by Chief Bradley's statements, that the applicant has not been denied an alcohol beverage license or suspended or revoked. So again, supported Chief Bradley's statement, and that none of the agents, owners, managers, partners, or lenders have a direct or indirect interest in another Colorado liquor license, and that this seems to be a straightforward renewal.
I move approval of the renewal.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Not approved or disapproved? No.
Either approve or set for hearing.
All those in favor vote. Okay,
That's from East Coast State.
okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this gets sent on. So,
and then I need to sign this.
yeah, you and your newly appointed clerk. So.
Okay, okay, very nice, thank you. Okay, the next item of business are the reports. I have no report. I don't believe, not that I can think of. I was at the state guy and he we went up to Cascade and walked the creek. And then we walked down and I showed him all the bridges and stuff. And Michael met him that day and Chief Bradley met him that day. His name's Lee. I don't know his name for sure, but anyway, he will be setting, talking to us about getting help and that contact. There's another meeting scheduled for Fountain Creek. They're trying to schedule another meeting to view Fountain Creek again and get people up here to walk and, survey damage or whatever we might have. So we're definitely on people's eyes there. The other thing I guess I would mention is the cleanup day for the Eagle Scout project, which is Saturday, this coming Saturday. So we're gonna have John Ives is going to be heading the Eagle Scout project here in Green Mountain Falls on Saturday morning. So I guess those are the two things.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Those folks that you were looking at the creek with, are they in any way associated with the regional drainage authority?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
And also, do we have a slash drive kind of thing for the town? Is that included? I realize it's not part of the Boy Scouts.
Right.
I don't think we're on the schedule. There may be one more coming up this fall, but I think the interest is diminished.
I don't.
Since Suzanne had sent me some information about
For the community cleanup day that we do in Woodland Park, we work with our local trash provider. They provide us with a container and haul off. You just have to tell them where to place the container and when. I don't know if you guys use the same provider though.
do they give you like a discount?
They donate it.
They donate it. We
That's
need
the
to use
same-
your provider.
That's the same provider that services all our city parks and our city buildings. So
Okay.
that's kind of a return of goodwill investment for them.
Okay.
So let's talk offline.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I think we can see that sometime in the future. We can talk about this, like in the fall, get it scheduled, because I think it could benefit our community if we had it.
Do you guys have multiple providers?
Yes.
It may be that you tap different ones to provide support for different events, and then that's an expense that you can save.
Well, our town has one provider, but then we get serviced by many multiple providers, I guess, right? Yeah.
There's a way we can work through that.
So we'll talk and see if we can bring that to the board later for the fall. Okay,
Thanks more about trash service later
Okay.
for the town.
okay, so, yes,
Do we know if our Boy Scouts, our Eagle Scout has made all of their contacts on Button Creek with landowners?
I am not,
Well, he's gotten back with me, and it's something that has to happen.
I am not sure about that.
I'll try and follow up
Yeah.
tomorrow, but, yeah, the landowners need to be notified in serious amount of time where they can respond if they have any conditions or concerns.
Right.
I've made a couple contacts just talking to people with some of our flooding events. And everybody's in favor of it, but that's not getting permission, and one lady down towards the end was like, well, I don't care if they come through, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, so we just need to make sure that if they're closing in on a date, that's occurred.
What are those coyotes? Oh.
So,
Yeah.
I just thought I would throw that out there, again, I haven't been,
You know, I ran into the Ives family at Bombay, and they said they were sad. Michael?
He, when I spoke with him on Saturday as well, and spoke to his mother, I said that this Thursday we're supposed to meet and walk the creek and see if there's any concerns that I have. But he did not address to me whether he has spoken to any of the landowners, behind the creek. And so that's a great concern, that would put some dampers on what he's planning on doing, because there may be concerns from the citizens as far as, what they have concerns about it as well.
they own the trees, they own the land under the water, she owns the water, but they have, it is their property, that creek land. So, again, I just didn't know, I haven't had,
Right.
they contacted me, so I was able to follow up on where we're at with this, but, it may need to be postponed if that hasn't occurred.
It's an excellent point, because there may be a presumption that the municipality owns that property.
And I was pretty clear that I'm not sure who has authority on this, and authority on that, so, at the very minimum. So I'll try and reach out to his father tomorrow.
Okay.
I know he's working a shift, and I'll just make sure that I know where we're at. 'Cause that could be something that's potentially outstanding and turn into a nightmare, literally.
Well, like I said, he'll be here Thursday as well, and in between, we can speak with him as well.
I'm gonna call him tomorrow, because if they've
Yeah.
got 17-year-old Boy Scouts
Yeah,
in
20.
town on Saturday, we need to figure it out as soon as possible.
Yes. Very good.
Okay, so you will make contact Chief Bradley?
I'll follow up with that,
Okay,
see where we're at.
Sure.
okay. Trustee Quinn? You have a report, sir?
Just a couple things. I did speak with Regional Building Department about them collecting our fees. Henry had stated that it shouldn't be a big problem. He was gonna have his staff put together a little packet for us, because it's gonna require signing an IGA or facilitate all that stuff. I just haven't gotten anything back on that. I will approach him tomorrow or sometime this week to try to see how that's coming along.
Okay.
And then also, as far as the town hall committee goes, I did finally receive a letter back from Rob Seaver. Basically, I didn't bring it tonight, he had sent it to my work email, but I'll go ahead and get that out to the board. It was just a small list of things that were discussed over the last couple of years during the planning process. Some things to get the conversation started, moving towards that end. So I'll go ahead and distribute that, and we can put it up for citizens to see. Hey. That's all.
Trustee Ellis?
I just want to make a comment that I was glad to learn tonight from Tammy that these committee meetings that we are scheduled on this are subject to the open law, and so this kind of puts a little different slant on planning for sure.
Yeah, and as Tammy said, you know, it's, even if it's a gray area, she would rather, I will tell you, I would rather that you just tell your clerk 24 hours before you're gonna meet, hey, we're gonna meet, you know, this day at this time. And do understand that the public could show up. I think that to say you weren't expecting the public to show up would be counterintuitive to your citizens committees, but and I don't think that's a problem for this board. So, just let your own clerk know. She can post those.
Trustee Gordon?
No.
Trustee Stevens?
RTA and PPACG both meet week from tomorrow. Similar report from this front. The town hall project's moving forward. There's been we just saw the second pay request go through the bills. The third pay request I just received today, so I'm working through the process. I understand we've not yet seen a quarterly report from our project manager, so we'll be talking about that at our OAC meeting tomorrow morning. And I think that's about it.
Trustee Cook?
We've got a few things there. I'll let Michael read some of the things he's voted in the last month. As far as that goes, but a couple of things, and not to over micromanage the public works or take too much of your time. We're checking into the trash service that we have. The current trash bin size that we have in public works is grossly inadequate for during the summer months especially. And so I did some investigation into looking at a different waste management system and found that we're currently paying $75 a month for trash service. We can double the size of our container with Springs Waste System for only $10 more. However, with waste management, to double it was nearly double the price, interestingly enough. And so with the board's, you know, okay and stuff like that, since it's a money issue, I would like to task our new town clerk to contact Springs Waste and set up a new contract with them and dismiss our waste management contract. So we can have a little better trash service.
And to the extent that the clerk needs anything reviewed for the contract, I'll be glad to do it.
Great, thank you. We are in the position that I would like to, and have formulated a job requirement for a part-time person to assist Public Works. However, I know that we're still waiting on the final as far as the budget goes, you know, because we still have some things up in the air, but I would certainly like to ask to expedite that, you know, as we can, so that we could look at getting some part-time help, probably 24 hours a week help for Mr. Colleen also. So I know Mr. Butts is not here to defend himself today, but I'm doing that and working with Mr. Ball and looking at our budget to get some finals on the feasibility of doing so.
So that can be on the agenda next time as well?
I would hope so.
One consideration that Trustee Butts and I thought about was doing a budget workshop at our next board meeting, either ahead of or during or in conjunction while we're there. Dive in deep and then set a deadline for trying to get some of these things resolved. I'm feeling the crunch of the town hall project and the limited funding that's within the existing contract. And you know, there's needs in public works, there's needs with the police, there's needs with the administration and town attorney and all sorts of stuff that, you know, we just don't have perfect information. And while I don't suspect we will ever get perfect information, I'd like to get more perfect information. Right now, we don't really have good year-to-date numbers that reflect what's going on and truing up the budget so that we know what the remainder of 2014 is looking like. And now's a great time to initiate conversations about 2015. I think a good starting place is delving and spending, you know, some significant time on the remainder of 2014 and where we are year to date.
Trustee Stevens, I like that idea, and I think it's really a great idea. I'm wondering though if we could put that off until that first meeting in September, just to give Mary a little bit more time of getting organized a little bit more and learning the ropes?
I'd love to, but probably should have happened 3 months ago. And unfortunately, we will probably miss any opportunity to make any changes in the town hall project.
Okay.
If we're, it looks like we are still on target to be occupying October timeframe, and with that, it's just, it won't have any impact to do any add-ons or anything that we might be able to do that project. And at this point, I'm kind of at a standstill authorizing change orders.
Till we know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would rather push any other agenda items off, to that next meeting.
Okay.
Deal with the budget, because we can continue to push the budget down the road, but that's kind of where we are with inability to hire people and these other things, and we just don't.
It's typical to do budget review in a workshop setting prior to the meeting.
So is like a workshop at 6 o'clock then on the 19th, okay? You guys, that'll work for you guys? And then you just work with Mary about getting what you need from, that'd be good. Okay.
So just to clarify, I understand that you guys haven't had financials for a few months. Is that what you're talking about, or are you talking about revising the budget?
Both.
Okay. Because my intent is to get caught up on the financials by the end of next week,
Good.
if not sooner. So,
And that would be the following Tuesday, so that would be a week,
right.
right? So that would be good. Okay.
And there's kind of 3 realms of question, where we are year to date, which is exactly what I think what you're talking about, getting those financials trued up and ready to be issued. And then there is the issue of the town hall project budget and or contingencies that may or may not be out there. And that's something Trustee Butts and I have been looking at, and with Rob Seaver and that sort of thing. And then understanding what's left in the town budget for the remainder of the year and making budget adjustments to affect some of the changes that have been identified, extra help, support for the different departments. Per Trustee Butt's email last week or the week before, he sort of said, let's put a break on everything until we can figure this out. So I think, like I made comment before, I don't want to wait till we have perfect information. I want to get as much information as we have and make some decisions to get us off standing still. So, because I'm comfortable that there's opportunities there. I just don't know what those cost. I think we're foolish to just charge ahead with the budget that was approved in December of 2013 and say you can spend all this, knowing that we've way exceeded some of those budget line items in some areas and underspent in others. We need to kind of true that up and come up with a plan.
It's my understanding your software program that you're using for your accounting, if everything's entered in there correctly, it's nothing to give you your up-to-date totals, so that should not be.
It shouldn't be too big of a deal. There's some of those other issues with like the town hall budget.
Right.
We'll take some research and investigating phone calls and things, but that's a little different.
Okay, so we'll have a workshop then at 6 o'clock. Is that good? Is that an hour? You think that's good enough, you guys, or do you prefer 5:30?
I just got a text from Trustee Butts. He said, well said about postponing.
Oh, he's watching. Hi, Trustee Butts.
Well,
Did you let
since we do have Trustee Butts listening.
Yes, Trustee Butts.
I'll let Trustee Butts know that I spoke with the senior partner, and this board may be happy to know, although looking back on it, maybe not so happy to know that a lot of the legal fees that you spent on the town hall project, the senior partner's opinion, in my opinion, that those can be used as in-kind donations by the town.
Excellent.
Oh,
That may drastically help out the in-kind donation need, although there was certainly some added expenditures by the board to make sure that project went smoothly on the first half. So to the extent that anything isn't clear by Mr. Butts of what should be apportioned to the town hall project from previous bills, we'll be glad to work with him and other town staff to
Thank you. Excellent.
Lastly, I would just like to again recognize Michael for his excellent work, not only with Bob Day, but with the antique car show.
Yes.
Everything goes so well, so I appreciate that. And he did send out a list of items that he did here in this month, and I would like him just kind of elaborate on some of those if he would. real quick.
I may object, I'm not sure that we've met since the swing school couldn't be there, the support that you gave for that budget. So that was very disruptive to the park.
Which,
Yes.
yes, it was, and which by in fact we're going to reseed and bring in topsoil for that and green box.
Yes, I was gonna say, I spoke with Jesse and he said that they would help with that.
They will do that, they will cover the cost of that.
Good, yeah, they just wanna make sure the water's in so they can,
Where we finally found.
you found, we found the water stuff. Good, yes, we have to water.
Okay. Just to elaborate on a few of the things that's been going on in the last couple of weeks, last 3 weeks. Of course, lots and lots of rain. That was my first topic. I've continued to do a lot of organizing and cleaning around the shop. If you guys stop by, you'll see some great improvement around there. I got the service done on the 2006 F350 that we have at Jerry's Auto, so that's done and finished. There was no major issues with it. Kind of the big item that was done was the completed the bathroom by the lake there by Reliable Sanitation. That was quite a cost of $2,100, but from according to the techs that were there and the guys that worked there, it was extremely difficult to do. It was the worst one they've ever done. As far as it was about 3/4 full. That's a 173-gallon container. It was just all concrete, all the waste that was in there. But they got it done. It's clean. And the bathroom's back up running again. So it's being used now by everyone. And so just from now on, that'll be maintained properly so that doesn't happen again. The GMC pickup that we have, the other dually truck that we use for plowing is now at Jerry's being worked on. They just started work on it today, so I'll kind of find out if there's any issues or anything with it. The 2012 Polaris that we had, the four-wheeler that we had, was serviced by Pikes Peak Polaris, and there was no major issues, just its annual service that we had. I've been getting prices with, I think it's UPass gravel, but for some Class 5 road base that we're going to start putting to the roads and rebuilding some of our roads that are in need of neglect. So I'm getting the prices on that right now. I'm also getting prices for chemical application on roads that we put road base on to, these are roads that are, ones that are kind of falling apart, that are, in dire need of help, the erosion issues, and that are more traveled than others, just for instance, like Catamount, Spruce, Hondo, Foster. These are the ones that we're going to target first, that are in need of a little bit more assistance, and we're going to be using a different type of chemical that's going to be more applicable for the type of roads that we have, that hold the road together. It's a different chemical than just mag chloride. It's actually cheaper, and it's one that's suited just for that. And so all I have to do now is just get the measurements, and I'll get back to the gal probably tomorrow and find out what the prices are.
Just if I may,
Yes.
any issues with environmental spillage with that product?
Nope, it's environmentally friendly. That's something that she asked as well, and then I asked her because that's a concern that we have up here, because the water, tends to run off into our creeks and into the, all that good stuff. But this one is actually environmentally friendly, and I'll have the information on that as well, in case you guys have concerns about it. The last two things is I've continued to repair and grade roads to improve the drainage throughout the whole town. It's an ongoing process. It's going to take some time to get these roads back up to, because they didn't have any work for the last couple of months, so it's going to take a little time to get those back. Then just a thanks to El Paso County for helping out. They did a great job over there in Catamount Creek, over there by the upholstery shop. There were some drainage issues that we had there for the water that ran off into the creek that caused a dam, and I was able to dig it out, but they came in and dressed it up really nice and cleaned it up for us, hauled up all the materials, so did a really good job. So that's actually a thank you for
And that's all that I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Michael, thank you for all your work, and I know with all the rains we've had, it's been, you know, one thing, and your spirit, yes, and keeping it tonight, and so thank you very much. Okay, Chief Bradley.
I'm trying to skim over these, I've got a few paragraphs here. First and foremost, met with the judge. And, out here, based on phone, email, phone calls, trying to figure out how to restructure municipal court that makes more sense. And, you know, the judge has a big input on this, on required times for hearings or pre-trial issues, things like that. We figured out that we can remove this to only 6 court dates a year instead of 12. If we utilize the even months for court dates, it helps us with the courts year in business going into the following year. The other thing that was really helpful was moving it, I would call it 9 court to 3 o'clock p.m. It makes it easier for a town clerk trying to scheduling, you know, on Tuesdays. That being said, we're talking about the first Tuesday of every month, so Crowder doesn't have an extra trip this from municipal court. He's already here. Everything's lining out. I didn't have any issues, legal issues with that. So that's been restructured. Next week is our last AM court date. And next court date is going to be October 7th. That's where we're starting with
October
this
7th,
court.
October at 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Very nice.
I met with a couple of people regarding our Fountain Creek issues. Department of Homeland Security, state level OEM, El Paso OEM. The truth be known is I am your early warning system. Okay. When you have a flood event here, everybody stages on the wall of Scar. The wall of Scar is going to affect us unless it shuts down the path. That is the only impact we have. So it's come up several times tonight. Our issues come from above. I learned with our first big event, flooding event in my time here last year, that there's a place to gauge if we're in trouble, and it's across from the wishing well, between the wishing well and Western. I know now from doing this a few times where the water level is if we're in trouble or not. When I see that much water, I have 10 minutes to get down to Green Mountain Falls before it starts coming in, and that's, I've timed that a few times this year. We're looking at almost 30 minutes before it impacts Manitou. So my system is I drive up there, we don't get any water above us to gauge that. If it's at that level, I shoot a phone call immediately to Joe Bureau down in Manitou, and I say, we got water inbound. I get down here, meet the fire department. We drive around, bang on doors, use our PAs. It's a little bit primitive. It's the only thing we have. With that in mind, I met with Chief Rivero, and we started talking about finding funding for emergency early warning systems to implement here. If I can activate that from that location, I don't have the drive time. Last time we had an event, I had traffic backed up from the county line and trying to weave through that with people that have gotten out of their cars. You can delay me from getting out. 10 minutes is not a long time. The unfortunate thing from that day is I was told by the gentleman from Homeland Security, Paul Ellis, that you guys are way late. That money's spoken for clear through 2016 for emergency warning systems. Fortunately, Liz Jordan of El Paso County was here, and we talked about a lot of things, and maybe the county kicking in and helping us. I told her the offers still on the table has been from day one on my end that we offer access and a workstation for El Paso County that gives them a vested interest. That was not the design when I offered that. It was just cooperation and friendship and the fact that we cover each other and giving them a place up here. They're not using public restroom or phone. They can't get service. So there's a lot of things in the works with this. The other part is I took them on a walking tour. We started up here and worked our way down to the bridge in El Paso Avenue East. This bridge currently is having back erosion issues today. This one's been repaired recently. Flooding event that we had, forgive me, I don't have the date, which was our highest water event. We had 2 flooding events in July. We had water to the bottom of the bridge on Hotel Street. we had a lot of trash, culverts, jamming in there, impacting the side of the bridge and the gas line that's exposed. Then when we went down to the El Paso Avenue East Bridge, it's obvious that that is extremely too small. It cannot handle the water volume alone, let alone any debris. There was some sizable rocks that was on this side of that bridge before it happened. I don't see it, they're not in plain view below it. So they went over or under. I was calling that in on our end, what I was observing, and I thought that bridge was gone. It was completely underwater. I saw the lineator start to fall into the water, and I thought the structure was lost. Somehow it stayed there, and within probably 2 hours, Michael here had that material on it packed, and it was passable. Pretty incredible. So obviously it's a choke point. I've seen it happen more than once. Once we get enough volume, that backs up. It backs up to Hotel Street, and then it continues to back up. The other issue and concerns were the amount of debris in Fountain Creek and some man-made structures that are literally restricting the flow of just the water, let alone debris. So we kind of sent, concerns and messages in a lot of different directions that we should be hearing back from them. Another thing that was touched upon tonight is on the Corps of Engineers. Somebody needs to get out here and assess the flow, assess the hydrology. You guys got big problems because of the way that this creek alone is obstructed. So, Paul was saying that he's going to look into a different set of funding on, I guess, the HUD side about maybe getting a bridge that works down there instead of what we have. He's looking at different avenues for us. So the best I can do is shoot the flare and see who gets back to us with what.
Chief, excuse me, just a point of information for you. He's going to look at funding for getting a bridge that we need.
Getting funding to maybe put an adequate bridge down there that can handle the volume of water. Because the funding that I inquired and asked him to meet with me about is set aside for an emergency warning system. It's gone till 16. So OEM, the county, she's working with me to try and find alternate sources to handle that need.
Are you speaking of the bridge on East El Paso?
I am. When the water's normal level, a big dog can walk under it, that's about it. I mean, it's kind of 3/4 of a culvert, a large culvert, it cannot handle what comes its way. And then years to come, who knows?
Michael and I have exchanged a couple of emails on this, and we might want to get some engineering help on this.
Sure.
Because with the debris, like you have said, that is in the creek, and it is, I think we can put culverts all the way from that last house clear up to the road, and we're still going to get trouble with debris.
We could have something
Here,
taller
how big it is.
and wider. When that bridge down there on Hotel Street, which I'm guessing, and I'm gonna take one close to 10 feet from the bottom of that creek to the bottom of the bridge, and that is flowing at full capacity, and you've got logs inbound, and we're jumping back and they hit the side of that bridge because the water level's that high. That's a lot of water. And I'm concerned that it's gonna turn, eventually, it's gonna be a life-threatening. We're gonna have life loss over it. If it backs up to the degree where it floods everything at the low level, all the way up. If you remember last year, 2013, when we had that big flood event here that took out our bridges, it exposed and ripped out a gas line below us. This town was cut off. There was no in and no out for a couple of hours. So they got the gas line repaired. So I think it's a deal where what we're seeing today, especially, we've dodged a lot of bullets. And we need to get moving on some options to correct these issues through here. It's not really my department or my field, but through emergency services, I have the contacts.
Emergency side, yeah.
Exactly.
Excuse me, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Both of the vehicles that we got from Manitou are in service. They are equipped, ready to go, sirens programmed, radios installed. So as soon as we start sticking bodies in there, they're workable. Which brings me to my next point. Sergeant Susan Barnes was reappointed on 6/30. She's here in a reserve capacity through the end of the year. A lot of that is conditional terms with her full-time job. We'll see how things go next year. And the mayor was very busy swearing in people last week. He swore 4 reserve peace officers in. Just so you guys know, I don't cheat on training these people. They are subject to 16-week FPO program, San Jose model. And the more they're in here, they can meet with us and we can get them through, the faster they'll be on their own. But for now, they're attached to us. They're only with us when they're in. So you'll be seeing some new faces. I will, at a better opportunity, parade them through here in uniform and embarrass them as much as I can, and you can meet all of them, put some faces to some
Very
names.
nice people, you guys.
Michael's seen them come and go. He's seen people in and out of that office for the last 2 months, with me doing backgrounds and interviews. Something that I've been approached on quite a bit, wanting to know. Let me explain kind of how I'm working things with El Paso County, because it's just me at this point, really, as far as being here regularly. They have, when I came back, I sat down with the sheriff, and they agreed to, when I'm not in service, to pick up call and handle it. Okay. I put my cell phone call pager when I start my week, and my week may end 7 days later. It may end 4 days later. It may be a day in the middle. But we roll command back and forth. I'm going to pull BizNet, and I like to do this occasionally. I haven't done it yet. It's been in the works to find out how many calls for services were fielded, even back in November of last year to the time I started, what they've handled, what I haven't. They're a pretty good bunch, and they know when I work 12 hours, dispatchers seem to know, and I know that El Paso County, the rate card, has fielded calls when I'm really technically on call pager. There was a little bit of confusion with an incident that we had on the 6th of July. There was an assault that started up on Rampart Range with some local residents that came down here. There was 3 people assaulted here with a handgun. Nobody was shot. There was a menacing and pistol whipping, for lack of a better term. Everybody on the planet showed up, SWAT, everybody else. This place was contained. They did a dynamic entry with a flashbang. Went back and served the warrant the next morning. I came in, my happy little self, with my McDonald's coffee, and I'm getting a phone call on the way down. And they said, what's going on? I said, no, what's going on? Well, this is what's occurred. And I said, I'm on my way. Okay. I called dispatch, and we kind of redefined about what I need to know about, regardless if they're on call or not. Unfortunate part is we looked for him the rest of the day. He had gotten into his father's residence and hung himself. So at that point, no need to sound the whistle about a public safety threat to the people of Green Mountain Falls. We were actively looking for him at the time, and it all transpired that next morning pretty quick. So, this is, when we have a situation like this, and I've been very clear with the sheriff and others that, January 1 next year is my target date to have them fully staffed and trained and will be self-sufficient and not rely on rolling command back and forth. I think it's worked pretty well so far. The feedback I've got from the SO and the citizens, I made it clear to the business owners, especially Carla, if you have an issue, you may get me, you may get the sheriff's department, you may get both of us. I have been inundated with meetings, and this is a good example, and other things. So that's how it's working. Everybody on board seems to be okay, with this trying to rebuild everything and be functional here by the end of the year. I didn't receive any news on the car show or Bronc Days that there was one issue. The only thing I'm aware of is a guy cut his hand on a hood of a car during the car show. I think that's the only call, and fire got that call, and I just made sure fire found the guy, and the guy found the fire. So pretty slick considering on the amount of people in town and these events. Haven't gotten any complaints. One thing that's not in that report, and kind of reminded me as you're talking about our noise ordinance. Michael picked up the idiot-proof decibel reader on Rangers so we can use it. It's there in the box, brand new, until we figure out what we're doing. This should be a matter of stepping out of the car, hitting the button, and giving a decibel reading, and you guys will define what's acceptable and what is not.
One suggestion, since you have these, you may play with them and see, Some for comments about, yeah.
Yeah.
There are comments about wind and, you know, cars going by and, you know.
This thing has a
see how-
big fuzzy cover, like a professional microphone. And I think that's designed to get the ambient noise, you know, or wind interference noise. I do not know. I gotta read the instructions. It's just sitting there until we figure out where we're going with this, but it's only got 4 buttons, so it can't be too tough for us to figure out.
Idiot proof?
One of them's probably on and off, so we've only got 3
Three
left to figure out, so. Any questions about anything?
Does that,
My suggestion would be that as town staff, the public works or the marshal chief, go and get kind of a baseline ambient measurement, you know, different times and kind of record them so that the board can say, okay, you know, and one time I would suggest is, you know, during the event that if Blue Moose is open with a band and things like that, particularly if you know calls are coming in from particular residents, go up there and get those measurements so that, you know, we can have some sort of data.
Basically a survey. I get it. And we're happy to do that once we get started in whatever direction with this. There has to be an acceptable noise level. Right now it's discretionary on the reporting party. You know, a low mumble is too noisy for some. So we've got to pick, it's going to be tough. We'll take readings anywhere you want, other than the lake, whatever it takes.
so that, should this be put on a future agenda or?
Yeah, that was a good part of my report was that I spent most of the day today after putting out some fires at the office. I came down and spent most of the day today with your newly assembled team. I actually went out to lunch and enjoyed. We took this opportunity, although I'd like to support local businesses to get away from maybe prying ears, so we went a little bit of the past, and had a great lunch. Made sure that the 4 of us, the chief, Michael, and Mary, that we all essentially got on the same page for that we're a team, we're your support staff. That right now we are understaffed. There are huge projects going on, but that we really are here to help you guys get to where you want to go. So I drove around quite a bit with the chief today. We addressed a couple of outstanding issues with landowner disputes and other issues. I got to see your old marshal's office. I got to see your framed-in new marshal's office. And then Mary and I had not nearly the time that I had hoped to walk through things, but I can assure you that she is as up to speed as you could expect a town clerk with the newness that she has. So,
So what are you saying?
I'm saying that I'm looking forward to the any amount of training that I can provide and help, and any amount of assistance that I can help. I do anticipate that my time will be increased as we get your new clerk up to speed. But I'll remind the board of two building blocks. One, although maybe the chief isn't aware of it, that our office doesn't charge for drive time. So a trip down here may cost the town anymore, but I certainly appreciate coordinating municipal court with your meetings. I think that my time spent with court may go up, but that's to be expected as you have an in-house and you have a court collecting fees as well. The other would be as your town clerk has issues, feeling free to call me. So I'll remind the board that we will donate up to 8 hours of our time to spend getting your clerk up to speed. So, I'm sure that there will be other things, but as I reminded her, even sitting down with better input. Sometimes it's just a matter of the attorney and you sitting down and working through it to make sure that you guys have all the information you need, so.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you. So, was that your report?
That was my report. I don't really have a whole lot more. There were a couple of correspondence that were delegated to other staff as far as use of personal property for some town vehicles turning around. It sounds like the public works and the chief are on the same page, and that I should have something to report to you as far as your response to that next week or
Next meeting. And Chief Bradley wanted to thank you as well for all you do and the time you put in for our town. Again, thank you as well.
Thank you.
And it was great meeting your family this
They had a
weekend.
blast. So we had.
It was really great, so thank you. I think that just shows community, and it shows that you're really working for our town. I appreciate you, so.
It was a great time. I actually was in town for breakfast, so I went to the pantry and got to eat there.
Did you have the motherlode?
No, I had the, let's see, my wife had the burrito and I had the bread steak.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Miss Mary,
Well, I really wasn't sure if I was supposed to pull together a report, so I'm just gonna kind of wing it. Being that I've only been here 2 days, how much do I have to report again? I spent all day Saturday. We worked till like 7:15.
in the evening?
Yes,
Oh my
I mean, that's why we didn't come down, because time got away from us, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 5 o'clock already.
Yeah.
But she showed me the program to amend bills and print checks and how to code everything, and then we started doing some of the things for the board packet, which I said, I'm done. It was like 6:45, I'm done. So we came in Monday morning and finished putting together the board packets, and it's been I think the word was out that they've hired a new town clerk, because it's been really nice meeting some of the residents who have come in just to say hi and welcome me, and that makes me feel really good, the warm welcome that I've gotten, so that's been nice, and I appreciate that. And then today was, just hanging out with the team.
Now, Trustee Stevens, have you all had the opportunity to
We
sit
have
down
not,
yet?
I just flew in last night, so
Okay.
we will sit down at some point, hopefully this week.
Okay, good.
Chit chat.
All right.
All sorts of good stuff.
Okay, good. Sounds good.
Perfect. Well, welcome, and we're so glad you're here.
Thank you.
And you survived your first meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And Suzanne, thank you. And we just thank you for stepping in and helping us throughout this time. And you have been such a blessing to our town.
You guys are excellent resources.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Thank you, thank you. And I hope, did you get to swim?
No, not yet, not yet.
I did.
Okay. You got to swim.
I did. I went and enjoyed your pool. It was great.
That's awesome. Suzanne, I hope you can take it.
If I can get through bike race on the 22nd,
Okay.
then things get a lot easier.
So thank you. So, is there any other business? No. If there's no objection, then our meeting will close at 10:05. Thank you.
Oh, I'm very worried. It's gonna be a good thing.
I'd like to email this to Director Report though.
Yeah.
How soon?
We have, Cora?
Yeah. My hope is all that needs.
What I would like for you to give me, give me a few more days, I want to put together a form that was requested of me to do for requesting information.
No, I haven't.
And what I can do is once I get that created and approved, I can call you. So they can come down and fill it out.
As far as I got,
And I started, I was gonna ask
was
you,
to,
but then I saw the next one.
have something
And so that's
like
where
this.
you were.
And it's
That's
really
where
so,
you were.
Yes, it works. Gets us there. Yes, it's more personalized. And then Michael put that as specifically. So these would have examples as well. And then the other thing we do have is the RTO organizations, drainage, that's drainage. Those have an implication. Okay, so those it's
GMF
It's good. I'll take pictures.
Can you give me tomorrow?
Sure, that's fine.
I, you know, because I went to the post office again today and I'm like, well, maybe there should be here sometime soon. So I, in the rain,
Yeah.
went to your
I sent it out for a
So they were to share, but.
Let me read it.
Let's do this. It's really basically
Your card,
No, excellent. Oh my goodness, dangerous.
So, yeah, I do. Yeah.
Well, that means.
There's more
That's what I'm
Sure, just wondering, I think, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Stay for the book.
I have no problems. But you got those ratings.
Oh, so,
And we'll just take a vote and see it being a big deal next week.
I can tell those today and see what I can check.
I know.
I don't.
It is a little longer than I would have liked tonight, but I think it's important to make sure. I know.
I don't know who will be here, but we'll try to.
Like, unless
If not,
I just don't know if you, I don't even know.
I've not seen.
it's lower.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm okay.
Sonny?
Issue.
Oh. I had something I had to say. Hey,
Some surprise.
yes.
Thank you.
Just appreciate your session.
Oh, and I'll come down one day and show you how to do it. How we did the call.
Oh, okay. Additional details and stuff. So you're not getting calls anymore? Okay.
And I'll show you how.
Okay.
Give her back to you.
I don't know if I put you. Yeah, that's great, thanks. Suzanne.
Hi, Don. See you later.
Hi, Barbara. Good to see you.
Night, guys.
Suzanne.
Chris, I need to get out of here.
You have a 214?
Yeah, that's myself, yeah.
That's Texas. I grew up with 214
Oh, no kidding, where?
in Irving. Oh, that's right, yes. And then,
That's all right.
JJ Pierce?
JJ Pierce?
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
Okay, so I have you, because I want to get together with you. I'm taking you out.
Let's
I'm gonna love to. All right.
I'll be.
Okay, I'm glad to. I'm gonna treat you.
Oh, you're so sweet. It has been such a pleasure, and as you're